So now I want to take a few minutes to just stop talking about sequencing technologies and actually talk a little bit about shotgun sequencing strategies that were used to sequence long genomes like the human genome using Sanger technology. And so I mentioned earlier that generally speaking, you can't sequence a whole genome all in one go. And it should be pretty obvious from the previous slide why that is. So, I mean, if your genome sequence is like, say, 3 billion nucleotides long, it's not like you can run a gel that has a few billion bands on it. And I mean, modern day Sanger sequencing doesn't use gel electrophoresis. They do Sanger sequencing within sort of microwell plates. But even then, it's basically impossible to Sanger sequence an entire genome all in one go. And so the general principle that genome sequencing is based on is something called shotgun sequencing. And so again, the idea is that if you start out with, say, a really long genomic fragment or a segment of a genome, the idea is that you cut that genome segment into many different pieces. And so because you obviously have more than one copy of the genome in hand, you cut many times across the genome sequence at random. And so that's what the term shotgun is referring to. And the idea is that for each one of these little small pieces, you can do, for example, paired end sequencing. So we'll talk about paired end sequencing with Illumina later. But basically, for each smaller fragment, you can generate one or two reads from either end of these smaller fragments. And then once you sequence these smaller fragments, the idea is that you can piece them back together and get the original genomic segment. And so in practice, there's two ways that shotgun sequencing is generally used to sequence genomes. So one is called whole genome shotgun sequencing, and the other is hierarchical shotgun sequencing. And so what whole genome shotgun sequencing refers to is you can actually take, for example, an entire genome sequence like the human genome, and you can actually just straight out fragment the entire genome into small little pieces, sequence either one end or two ends of each small little fragment, and try to assemble the entire original genome sequence from these very small fragments. On the other hand, an older style approach is what's called the hierarchical shotgun sequencing approach. And so that approach is a little bit more structured in the sense that you take your original genome sequence and you first divide it into larger fragments like what are called bacterial artificial chromosomes. And these larger fragments tend to be on the order of, say, like 150 kb to 350 kb. And then for each individual BAC, for each individual segment that's 150 to 350 kb long, you then shotgun sequence that, and then try to basically sequence short little fragments, reassemble the individual BACs, and then somehow put the BACs back together. And so it's called hierarchical because you are kind of dividing the huge genome into smaller pieces, smaller pieces, and then finally sequencing the smaller pieces and kind of building it back up. And so there's a kind of long history and there was a lot of controversy when the human genome was first sequenced, because there were kind of competing camps. There was one camp of people who thought that hierarchical shotgun sequencing was the way to go because it's very structured in the sense that you're dividing the genome into smaller and smaller kind of more manageable parts that you sequence before you try to build it back up. And then kind of the so-called newer camp were the people who thought this hierarchical approach is really slow because you have to organize these different BAC libraries and piece them back in a very hierarchical fashion. And so they thought that based on computer simulations, they thought that you could actually you could just throw away this whole idea of having to build this hierarchical BAC system, and you could just fragment the original genome into these small pieces and just somehow use computers to assemble them back to the original genome sequence. And so whole genome shotgun sequencing is basically the approach that they kind of won out in the end, and that's kind of more standard nowadays compared to hierarchical shotgun sequencing. But it is kind of interesting to note kind of these two major different approaches to genome sequencing. And so going back to this idea of these BACs, So basically, again, a bacterial artificial chromosome, or BAC, is basically just like a synthetic DNA construct that you use to clone DNA sequences into, say, for example, like bacterial cells like E. coli. And so the idea is that if you're trying to sequence, say, a human genome, what you can do is you can take a whole bunch of human cells, you isolate the genome sequence from those cells, and then you basically break them up into large 150 to 350 kb segments. And then for each one of those segments, you can put them into some vectors, transform them into, say, for example, like E. coli, and then basically generate your library from that. And so the idea again is that each individual BAC contains one large fragment from the original genome, and then because you have multiple copies of the original genome sequence, then you can have BACs with kind of like overlapping regions of the original genome. And so what's kind of an interesting point to make is that back when the human genome was being sequenced, the initial draft of the human genome was actually generated based on BACs from just a handful of anonymous volunteers. And actually about 3/4 of the initial draft sequence actually just came from 2 BAC libraries. And so I mentioned earlier that in terms of hierarchical shotgun sequencing, you have to kind of sequence individual BACs, and then you kind of have to piece these BACs back together. And so, the process of piecing the BACs back together is not entirely straightforward, but the idea is that, assume for the moment that you've somehow managed to sequence individual BACs, right? And so the idea is that in order to kind of figure out how to piece individual BACs back together into the original genome, you basically need to build what's called a physical map of the BACs. And so just as a quick review, a physical map of a genome means that you're basically trying to build a map of the genome where you know the absolute position of different DNA sequence elements. And so what that means is that you know the rough or precise position of where different restriction sites are, or transcription start sites in the genome. Like the transcription start site of like GATA4 is at like position 11 billion of chromosome 5 or whatever. And that's kind of in contrast to, again, what is generally referred to as a genetic map, where genetic maps are basically maps derived from knowing the relative distances between genetic landmarks. And so by relative distance, I mean that through other means, you can generally estimate, for example, the relative frequency of crossover events that occur between 2 different genetic landmarks on the genome. And so basically by estimating the frequency of crossover events, you can generally speaking determine which, how far apart two different genetic landmarks are. And so for the purposes of assembling BACs back into the original genome, it's the physical maps that you really need to know about. And so the idea is that, suppose you took, for example, a single BAC, right? And so what you could then do is you could take a restriction enzyme, or say a collection of restriction enzymes, and you can use those restriction enzymes to cut at different restriction sites along a single BAC. And so the general idea is that if your restriction enzymes have relatively high sequence specificity, which they often do, and your BAC is long enough, what that means is that any given fragment of the original genome, which corresponds to an insert in a BAC, will generate kind of a unique banding pattern on a gel. Because, if your restriction enzymes are highly sequence specific and your, genome is of high sequence complexity, then you're going to get a unique, set of fragments after restriction enzyme cutting. And so here, suppose that numbers 1, 2, and 3 refer to, the inserted genomic fragments in 3 different BACs. And suppose you, in this hypothetical case, you got lucky and, insert 1, 2, and 3 are overlapping. And so the idea here is that if you use the same set of restriction enzymes to make cuts along fragments 1, 2, and 3, then if you look at fragments 1 and 2, for example, because they overlap, the restriction enzymes will basically make the same cuts along that overlapping fragment. And so what that means is that two inserts that share sequence will have corresponding fragments after the restriction enzyme cutting of the same length and sequence. And so that means that you'll have overlapping bands in your gels between insert 1 and insert 2. And similarly, because insert 2 and insert 3 have overlapping sequence, after restriction enzyme cutting, they're going to share a band, at least one band, because because they have the same sequence in that overlapping region. And so after restriction enzyme cutting, that'll yield an overlapping band. And so the general idea is that by finding common bands across multiple BACs, you can kind of get an idea of which BACs are overlapping each other on the original genome sequence. And that will then kind of allow you to kind of assemble those BACs and figure out which ones follow which. And so the big picture here is that, if you start with the original genome sequence and you fragment that genome into many different pieces and generate your BAC library based on, creating these 150 to 350 kb inserts and putting them into the BACs. The idea here is that through physical mapping, you can basically figure out where, broadly speaking, each insert came from with respect to the original genome. And because you started out with many copies of the original genome sequence, your BAC library is going to be highly redundant, right? What that means is that you're going to have, if you consider all of the BACs in your BAC library and where the insert came from on the original genome sequence, you're going to have a lot of different regions being represented by multiple BACs. And so the idea then is that in order to do hierarchical genome sequencing or hierarchical shotgun sequencing, you then want to take your original highly redundant BAC library and you just want to select a subset of BACs that more or less are not that overlapping with respect to the original genome. Because the less overlapping each BAC is, then that basically means the less wasted sequencing happens, right? Because if you're sequencing a whole bunch of BACs that are, have a lot of overlap, that means that you're kind of wasting money because you're just sequencing the same thing over and over. So you want to make sure that the BACs that you actually sequence are, generally speaking, not that overlapping. And so, since Sanger sequencing was really developed, a number of technologies have now been developed which have higher throughput than Sanger sequencing. And so the three main ones that we'll talk about in this lecture are sequencing by synthesis, which is kind of speared by the Illumina sequencing technologies. You have the PacBio smart cells, and you have nanopore sequencing.